what a beautiful time it is, in fact. We were just reminded yesterday that actually the 4th of July, which is tomorrow, happens to be a few birthdays. One happens to be Sister Gyanamata's birthday. And of course, also Ananda's birthday is also the 4th of July. We have a niece from Bara's brother. Her birthday is the 4th of July. And I feel like there's one
Is
more.
when Declaration of Independence of
America's
USA.
Independence Day. So there's a lot of celebration of kind of birth and newness. But we kind of picked Sister Gyanamata, a nice time to honor her and just tune in again to her life. And again, this book, in case you haven't read this, we highly recommend. It's just a very, very powerful book. And one of the things, so what we chose today, the satsang title, Divine Inner Strength, it's one of the subtitles of the book on which is written a little bit of how Sister Gyanamata basically expressed that divine inner strength. And we thought that could be a nice thing to tune into from her life. Even if you look at her picture, you look at her eyes, what we see is really that complete one pointed, just from the title of the book, God alone, that complete focus, laser beam. And also, when you do read this, as I was just browsing through yesterday, I really felt my spine straightening. I was sitting in bed reading at night, and I really felt I was actually sitting up by the end, and I was telling Mara, wow, I'm feeling very inspired, just from reading a few of her words and a few of this inspiration. And so, just to tune into that, we all go through, hopefully we all go through enough challenges that the guru is kind enough to challenge us and have faith in us that we're going to be able to do this. And in those times, what we need is divine inner strength, isn't it? Oftentimes we're called to find that strength within us. So Sister Gyanamata had said, outwardly it was like a flower, fragile, delicate, soft. She would always exude the fragrance of spirit. But inwardly, she was made of steel. And that's a very beautiful image to tune into as well, isn't it? Outwardly, you may be however you are. You may be soft, you may be expressing different qualities, but inwardly, nothing can touch that connection that we have with the Guru, that love that we have for God. And that's what we're here for. And now we know it finally. And that's what we're here to learn. That's why we're here to learn the lessons and go deeper in that strength. And, I was thinking of taking two things from Sister Gyanamata. They may seem basic, but it's always good to come back to the two basics in a way. And of course, then Baraquiel will talk more. But the first one is her example of Guru Seva, service to the Guru. And it's like you just see, even from this book, I feel like the moment you pick it up, this is a Guru Seva. Just the letters that she wrote. She was not well for many years. She had taken on a lot on her body. So she was in bed for many years of her life. She suffered a lot on the physical plane. Master says she was taking on the karma of whoever it was she was helping. But inwardly, that didn't touch her. And in fact, it didn't prevent her from doing anything that she could for the Guru. And Master himself writes these very beautiful words. I just wanted to share this with us. Just you can even close your eyes, I invite you. And just tune in. Imagine this is the Guru talking of his most advanced disciple. Just tune into those words, the power behind it. And he says, I remember how hard sister worked and never complained. She would go up and down the stairs of 3 stories of Mount Washington until her body would drop out of sheer inability to carry on its work. She helped me to help others by always being a peacemaker, by trying to instill in them the right attitude and behavior. Once, some people said to her, why do you enslave your will in service to God? She replied, it's rather too late to change now. And I think I have made a very good choice. My will is guided by wisdom, not by will. The Master says, everybody looked to her as an example. Whoever was sincere and came near her was changed. Isn't that such a beautiful example? Just running up and down, just within the ashram, whatever she could do, just serving in any way. And then she wrote many letters, which now are in this book, sharing her guidance, sharing wisdom. And of course, by her example, she would often say, if my health was better, I would be able to show people much more how to be a better disciple. So she lamented that she couldn't do enough. She would say, more and better. That's what I would do if I had a chance to come again and do it over. I would do more and better. And just that example of Guru Seva, it's like oftentimes when we get a test, when we are challenged by something that seems bigger than we're able to handle, Guru Seva is the best way, isn't it? To just fall back into that. Running up and down the stairs. Sometimes just visualizes the Gyanamata. Try to channel that. Doesn't mean we have to just start running helter skelter, but immerse in some form of Guru Seva. We have so many opportunities in Ananda. We are so blessed. So many teams serving together. Jump in, dive in, just get in that flow again. And all of a sudden, what problem? Me? What about me? What test? You see, we just forget the self, forget all these little tiny things that are bogging us down. Guru Seva, eye on the goal. That's one example we can take from her. And the second one I wanted to share is obedience to the Guru or the Guru's guidance. And no matter what came from the Guru, she would try to do it. And there's this very sweet example here when she was, of course, like because of her health, was very poor and it was deteriorating. But Master saw that a little bit of physical exercise would be good for her. So he encouraged her to do that. And it said about her that even on the last day of her life, she asked somebody to help her get out of bed just so that she could walk around a little to do her exercise. Because the Guru said, exercise, and so help me. I will do it. No matter what, to that extent, isn't it so inspiring? And just the Guru's guidance, no complaining, no, sense of, I don't know if I should, oh, it's true, my will is enslaved. No, now finally, my will is guided by wisdom. Finally, my will is guided by the Guru. And in that, she said very often that all my strength has come from God and Guru. All my strength has come from complete surrender to God and Guru. It's a very sweet thing as well. She would say to God inwardly, because her legs, she couldn't move them. She would say, you lift them to God and I will put them down. Just that, even in that, complete surrender. It's like, let's do this together. I need to get out of bed. Let's get up together. How amazing is that for us to tune in? Whenever we feel, I can't do this, can we do 50% and ask God to do the rest? Can we do a little bit? And in that, no complaining, no shouting back at the Guru, which sometimes could be a good thing to shout at least to the Guru and say, why are you giving this to me? Do you think I'm strong enough to take it? But if he does think that we are strong enough to take it, and if we're blessed that he has the faith in us to give us enough challenge that seems bigger than us, that's the greatest blessing. Because oftentimes it's when something's bigger than us and it looks like, my God, Master, this is not possible. I don't think I can do this. It's that moment that he says, okay, then I'll do it. Let me show you. Let me use you as a channel. Let me help you with my strength. Because where do you think your strength is coming from after all? And so this is very important for us to keep in mind as devotees. Really just that visual, keep it again and again. Outwardly, we may be going through many expressions. We may have to play different roles, sometimes of a soft flower, sometimes more strong, sometimes whatever it may be. But inwardly, that bar of steel in the spine, always straightening up, always calling on the strength of the masters to just help us become stronger and stronger and keep moving forward. God alone, one pointed focus. And I'll just close with, there's just to re-emphasize these points. Recently, we got to spend a little time in Delhi with Dhyana ji. who's just back from the USA. And she was sharing a couple of stories. And as I was reading these, I was thinking of her stories. And just really, we have in Ananda, in our great souls here, many ones who are very much like Sister Gyanamata. Very much this divine inner strength expresses through them. And we feel it through their inspiration, their presence. And I was thinking somehow through these couple of stories of Dhyanaji, that's an example she was sharing of divine inner strength. Of one time, she says she was going through a very difficult challenge. So she went to Swamiji and basically told Swami Kriyananda that, I don't think I can do this. This is just too difficult for me. And Swamiji looked at her, and he had himself been through many tests, a lawsuit, and many, many challenges, his health, a lot of karma. And then he just looked at Dhyanaji and he told her, well, Dhyana, look what it takes to find God. And then he said, look what I've had to go through. And in the last moment, he looked at her very strongly and he said, you can do it. And she said, when she went home, she felt a shift. She felt that karma wasn't as big anymore. She felt he had blessed her. And so sometimes let's go to the Guru that way. So this is too big, if it is. And feel him saying, you can do it. And feel his blessing, freeing us, lifting us up. And the last, which was a very fun one, and she says this often, is when in that phase where she was, again, I have so many problems. But she had, I think, just moved to India. And, when they were starting the work and there's so many things to do. So she was running here and there and just so busy, like Sister Gyanamata, running up and down the stairs. And then at some point she realized, wow, I have so many problems, but I don't have any time to think about them. In that, it's just complete immersion, Guru Seva. And so again, these are two things hopefully we can take, all of us, into our lives and feeling the strength, the power of the masters and Sister Gyan.
Thank you, Shamini. And I really like that part of, I don't have any time to think about them. It should be so true for all of us. And even if we feel like we have time to think about them, we don't give them time at all. That's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing. And, I have to say, I don't tend to read much this book, except when we do have to speak about Sister Gyanamata and things like that. A part of me, I don't know why, from the very beginning of the spiritual path, when I started, I saw this book. Whenever you see Sister Gyanamata's face, at least in this picture, you don't think, oh, this lady's here and she's gonna be so sweet and say such sweet things. You, as Shamini was saying, you see a spine of steel, that she somehow, I guess, when I was new, I knew that if I read this book, it's going to straighten my spine and kind of give it to me. And probably part of me resisted that a lot when I was new in the past. But and when you do read these letters, there is a lot of that straightening of the spine that Shamini was talking about. But also, obviously, underneath there is so much sweetness. And that sweetness is expressed mostly in her love for the Guru and her total faith in Yogananda. Is so amazing to see how much faith she had in the Master. Shamini shares some wonderful stories, for like that one of she, doing to the last day that exercise just because the Guru had said. That is so commendable, really. It's just, her faith was so strong. Now it's also fun for us to tune into some of these saints, because Master said that Saint Lin, Oliver Black, and Sister Gyanamata were her most advanced disciples. And I don't know many things about Oliver Black or stories about him, except one or two. But we do have many things about Saint Lin and about Sister Gyanamata, because they were much more with Yogananda physically as well, as where Oliver Black was, a little removed, which he scolded him for that also. But anyway, and we can see much more perfectly how an avatar can shower his love into them, because they're able to receive that love Whereas others, will misunderstand the law, thinking he's giving them favors, think like, they will not be able to take it or whatever it may be. But to Rajarsi and Sister Gyanamata, he could give himself completely and be totally himself. And it's just a beautiful thing to read about, to see. And, I was thinking that as we were reading this, reading of wisdom, that this applies so wonderfully to Sister. No wonder why she was called Sister Gyanamata, wisdom, because is happier and wiser, and especially this prayer. I'm grateful, Lord, for every test you send me. Each time I stumble, help me to learn. Each time my human weakness makes me fall, help me to grow stronger. May I realize behind every pain that calm, reassuring wisdom. Because, as Shamini said, she had a lot of challenges, and I think that's something. Uh, Observing her life, she kind of redefines what guru's blessings are for us, or the grace of God means to all of us. Because many of you know that Master extended her life. He said that he made a pact with God that he will not take Sister Gyanamata until he gave permission, and the Master gave permission to say, yes, now you can go. And because of that, her life got extended for 20 years at least. And there are many stories of how she almost passed away here or there, but Master saved her in this way or that other way by suggesting something to the doctors or to this person. And 20 years extra of life when you were supposed to pass away. And that's another one of the reasons why her body was so unwell, because she was not only taking the karma of other people, but she was also finishing her own karma in this one particular incarnation. And one may say, oh my God, that's so cruel. The Master kept her for 20 years suffering, 20 years with body aches at death's door. But she saw it only as Guru's blessings. That was her salvation. That was her grace. The fact that she was in bed a long part of these 20 years with her body sick, she saw it as Guru's blessings, as Guru's grace. And now many of us, we may say like, yes, everything is God's blessings, everything is God's grace, even when we are feeling bad, it's God's grace. But how many of us actually feel that way? And when you read about Sister's life, you could see that she would feel it. And she would not just affirm it, she would give concrete examples, and she would just tell everyone how this is actually a blessing. And what was the reward for her, going to just 20 years, which is nothing compared to eternity of that particular, extension of her life, is Master says she found final liberation. She found moksha, basically. So she doesn't have to come ever again if she doesn't want, or if God doesn't want for her to come ever again. Now, wasn't that Guru's blessings? Wasn't that Guru's grace? Of course it was. Tremendously so it was. And in that way, it is good for us to also redefine in our heads what Guru's blessings are. And to, really try to develop this faith that really whatever comes to me comes from my own good. It comes as a blessing from the Master. And even if I don't see it that way at the moment, let me at least affirm it, that it's a blessing for the Master. Because when you think about it, all our hard times in our lives, at the moment we are suffering, we are so involved, we are crying, where the Master, what's happening? And at least you are tuning into Master and all these things. And at some point they go away, even if it's many years, they go away. And then perhaps months later or years later, we look back at those times and say, yeah, they were very challenging, but I learned a lot. And actually, those were some of the most transforming times of my life. Isn't it so? Don't you have something like that has happened to you? I think everybody has had that. And then the question is, well, if in the future we're going to see it as a tremendous time of growth and of blessings, and that, oh yeah, actually Master was there, why waste all those years, and why not try to see that happening right now, at this very moment? amid all the chaos. And yes, I think part of it is because we forget, or we are so personally involved that we don't have perhaps even the memory or the guidance to do that, or we just, or human weakness comes in the way a little bit, you could say. But that's why it is so important to keep ourselves uplifted at all time, as much as we can. Perhaps in times of difficulties when we should read this book more so that we can have our spine straightened. Perhaps it's not the time for us to read, oh, Swamiji or Master's very sweet teachings or whatever it may be. Perhaps it's the time for us to, get back on our feet and say, yes, okay, what do I do now? And not to say that, Master and Swamiji wrote all sweetness and all that, but, their styles were different. Master said his way was through joy, whereas Sister Gyanamata was through wisdom. And we know that wisdom usually, through Sri Yukteswar, through Gyanamata at least, is being expressed more impersonal, perhaps less, it is in a way that we can, it may seem a little cold to us if we are not aware of what is actually happening. Whereas, joy or love, we kind of, yes, let me get some of that. Whereas wisdom can seem a little bit more strict. So I wanted to read also a couple of things from this book that I found very inspiring, because again, her discipleship to Master was so amazing. And that's another example that we can have for our lives. So this is a part of a letter she wrote. You are here with him, meaning with Master, because he is God conscious and you want to be God conscious too. This is the reason for every moment of contact you have with him. It's all for your own sake. So be with him in the same deeply reverent attitude that you have when you come out of a temple within, come out of the temple within after meditation, when you put your folded hands to your forehead and whisper pranam. Those words, remember you are because of him, because he's God conscious, and you want to be God conscious too. And when you read all the stories and the letters of Sister Gyanamata, you see how impersonal her relationship with Master was. It wasn't like, oh yeah, nice, my little guru is here and all that. It was really, this man knows God and I must attune to this man so that I may know God as well. It was so much that. It is said of Sister that whenever Master will walk in the room, she will stand up. Even if she was feeling whatever, she will stand up, and not just, out of courtesy or anything, because she really felt that, that was the proper thing to do in the presence of the Guru. And it is said that she rarely spoke with him at all. Master used to say that he only has to think of Sister and, a letter will come from her the next day or something like that. They were so in tune with each other that they didn't even need to speak. In fact, she was mostly in silence when Master was there. There is a little story of Master just, there's several people in the room and Master just walks in the room and, they all stand, of course, Sister stand. And I don't know if she was closing her eyes or not, but, Master didn't say a word to anyone. He was just walking around there in the room, looking out the window. But the person suddenly noticed that, there was a little smile on Master and a little smile on Sister Gyanamata as well, that they were probably communing in that deep silence so much. And she says that she will rarely ask anything to Yogananda. Usually in the silence, she will ask silently and she will get her answers because she was in constant communion. Now, she was with the Guru physically, and still she knew that that was the deepest way to commune with Master. And so it is that we have to learn also that in that silence, that we have to keep that inner communion and depersonalize it a little bit and just commune. Remember that we are here for God, God alone, but that also to really look in the silence and not necessarily have to always be asking even other guru-wise, oh, what about this and what about that, that we so easily can do. try to do it a little bit in the silence. And yes, if you really cannot, obviously go for those who are wise as well, to those who are wise as well. But always try to develop that relationship in the silence. Now, a little bit more that I want to read. In one respect, I was very fortunate from the first in the understanding I possessed of the relationship between guru and disciple. I did not mistake it for a friendly one, nor a social one, nor one for work or service, nor for pleasure. It is solely spiritual. So deeply spiritual that it passes away beyond my sight and understanding. Though you can only dimly apprehend this divine relationship at this time, trust yourself to it. Trust yourself to it. Sorry. The Guru will lead you out of the slums of self onto the heights of spiritual realization. And I think that's a little bit for all of us. Though we can only dimly apprehend this relationship, we have to trust that relationship and throw ourselves into that relationship with the Guru, that deeply spiritual relationship with the Guru, so that he may reveal, like an iceberg, we only see a little bit of it, a little bit of the tip, but there is so much more. And to have that motto, God alone, silently going in meditation, trying to commune with the Guru, trying to attune to his presence, and follow this example of Sister Gyanamata, who could receive so much from Yogananda because she had that faith, because everything she saw as a blessing coming from the Guru, even the ill health, even the greatest catastrophe, and because she really understood that this relationship is what matters and what it had to develop.